Hi there, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another conversation with Carla. And I am so glad you're here, guys. Could you imagine this is the last Sunday of the month of September. And so we are rapidly coming to the end of the year. 3 more months to go. But my name is Carla. I'm your relationship doula, helping men and women bravely birth peace in the pieces of their lives. And I love having the conversation. And our guest today is Javerne. She's a virtual learning coach. And I'm going to be transparent. She is also my niece. So yes, I know her. But what I wanted to just come alongside and share and talk with other parents who are experiencing education in a whole different way. We had the end of the summer. Hey, Sade, thank you for tuning in. We had the end of the summer, the school year that was different for so many. Hey, Rebecca. And now we had a new virtual in learning or out learning virtual classrooms for the fall for so many parents. And I wanted to have a conversation with an educator so that you guys, hey Carmen, so that you guys can, if you have questions, ask her. We may know the answer. We may just be sharing what you're feeling, your ups and downs, your concerns about learning for your children during this time. So, Javerne, can you share a little bit about your background with education, please?
Okay, my name is Javerne Hurst-Davis, and I went to Oakland University. I started there, and I actually got my degree in accounting. And while I was there, it was my last year. It was my fourth year, and I took what are those classes? An extracurricular class, and I did it on human development. I said, "Hey, let's see what this is about." So in that class, we had to do hours at a daycare, and I went into the daycare, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, "Why didn't I?" I mean, when you think about education, I always thought about like school age education. I never really thought about preschool and like that type of age. So, I was like, okay, I really like this. I think I'm interested. So I went and I even went to discuss like switching my major. Again, I was about to graduate, right? So they like, basically, you're going to start all over. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's not happening. So I graduated with my degree in accounting, and I said, I'll just work on my master's. So about 5 years after graduating, I went and I got my master's in early education. So this is actually my fifth grade teaching. I've taught from one school for 4 years, and I started a new position at a new school this school year. I've taught first grade, second grade, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, and I've also done preschool. So that is, the beginning. If I even go back further, it was always thought that I would be a teacher, and I never really, at a younger age, was like, no, I don't want to be a teacher.
And when she says that, because she comes from a generation of educators on both your mother's side and your father's side. So it's like it's running in your DNA, and sometimes you want to run from it, but you were actually now seeing it was in a different way that this education was coming about, that you were saying, ooh, that you like this. But I want everyone else out there to hear what she said, that it's okay if you go to college and you realize in your last year, this is not what you want to do. Because you don't have to stick with it.
I, I've done anything seriously with accounting. Have not used that degree. And I guess, I mean, this is still on the terms of education. I just really, but this is for like people going in high school and college. Like, there is a chance you're not going to know what you want to do. I mean, like, I go to college, I was 17 years old. How would I
Mhm.
really, at 17 years old, what my whole future look like? And those people that are able to do that, great for them. I still sometimes at this point, like, what's the next thing, right? I'm still like, what am I going to do next? Like, okay, I've done this. What's the next move? So still learning at 32, 33 in a few weeks that maybe this is not the end game, and that's okay.
Okay, yes, I love that, because one of the things as an educator, and we need to realize we're forever learning. You
Right.
could be a forever learner and you could change careers. I've heard people becoming different things at different age, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So that's the exciting thing about learning. So that's a great segue as we're talking about education, because there's so many things we can do online learning and in classroom learning. So I know you have done both as far as virtual learning and in classroom learning. So first of all, for parents out there who are pulling their hair out, or how did you handle that transition when all of a sudden, or how, your classroom ended abruptly in, was it March that you guys kind of stopped having in classroom at your job this earlier this year?
Yeah, so I mean, we went home on a Thursday. Friday had a day off, but basically on a Monday we were teaching online. The school that I was at, we really were in a way ahead of the game because we had Chromebooks for kids. Most of the staff knew how to use Google Classroom, so we were able to adjust as teachers a lot better. But I feel like as far as the parents, it was still a lot of work. And
Okay.
again, it's a different type of situation, so it was a lot of learning for everyone, a lot of adjusting. So it was interesting. And then
Okay.
I was at home, my kids were at home just trying to juggle, have a space to teach and then letting them know that, okay, mommy's at home now, but I'm still working. So
Hmm.
imagine, even as a parent, how that balancing was a lot of work.
Did, and I like how you said, because yes, you now had a double whammy per se, because you are an educator who has to be online to teach others, but then you have children who needed to be taught as well too. So you had an interesting situation, that some other teachers, educators who may have children, um, to juggle that. So how did you, or did you mentally survive that? How did you let some things go in the house and just say, okay, we can't get this done or whatever? How did you navigate that? Because was it realistic to expect for you to want to be able to do everything that you were doing beforehand when it was in classroom?
I know for me personally, as an educator, what I expected in my classroom, being in person with my kids every day, I in the beginning I was trying to live up to that expectation, right? So I was trying to make sure that I'm meeting all of these things and doing all of these things, making sure I get all of these grades and everything. And after about 2 weeks of staying up till about 2 o'clock in the morning and then waking, I was like, I am not going to survive this. And really, the kids aren't going to survive this, and the parents aren't going to survive this. It was putting too much. So I had to realize sometimes we feel like, oh, we cannot lower our expectations. But different situations, it's not that you're lowering your expectations, but you're realizing that it's a different situation, a different circumstance. So you have to revamp, you have to adjust. I can expect I could not expect all of us to do what we would do in person in my classroom. So
Mhm.
new ball game. So I had to personally readjust how I did things. Some people felt like they should still go full head on. That's great for you. And then again, it taught me that we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people.
I
We have
love
to
that.
do what works for I have to do work for Javerne Hurst-Davis in her room with her 3 kids and her husband, right? So that's what I had to do. And I also was thinking about my students because I saw that a lot of them weren't able to finish the work because I was, especially I was doing fourth grade, fifth, and sixth graders, and it's math on top of that. So math is a lot of hands-on things like writing out equations, doing that. It's difficult to try to really teach that online when you're just getting thrown into it, right?
Yeah.
So it was more so trying to just make it their fun. There was many times where it was just, how are you doing today? We're not even thinking about learning because a lot of them, they miss their friends. They just want to talk to their friends. Sometimes we just open it up and they were just talking to each other, right? So we just had to find ways. And I think at that point, it was more than just education as far as how we think math, language arts, science, and social studies. This was, for me, more of emotional stability that they were trying to work around, and that just letting them know that this is a sucky situation, but we're going to try our best to get through it.
I loved when you said that about revamping, and you have Sade who says, "Mommy at home, but still working." Good breakdown. Joycelyn says, "Kay says, adapting to a new normal," and Louis Lindita says, "Love that, revamp and adjust." And Sade said, "There's a difference between lowering expectation and adjusting to new situations." So again, reframing that, I love it because, as you said, I have a granddaughter, and during that time, it was the socialization they missed. So I would hear them on the Zoom call, but I love when you said just having a time when they could just socialize and talk to their friends, because for them as children, especially, this is a whole different normal, and they are excited, and this is the only time they may get to see their friends and talk to them. And I know sometimes it can be frustrating when, if all your focus is on discipline, be quiet and listen,
Right.
just like sometimes you have to get those wigglies out, just having those kids, chitter chatter to everybody, because it may sound chaotic, but they can be learning and growth in all of that. So I applaud you, because I know that I could see you staying up till 2, just trying to still be everything. And talking about burnout,
Yes,
you wouldn't have been able to survive continuing to do that. So okay. So I love that.
and I know I do have a lot of help mother and was here to help. And I remember at one time she was saying something to me, and I remember looking at her and saying, "Listen, I don't have the answer. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm not trying to be snappy, but I just need you to figure it out. Right? I just can't. I can't. I got all of this to do." So I mean, it's I looked, and again, I'm looking at my kids at that time whose parents are single parents, or whose parents have to still work, and they have kids at home by themselves. And me, as a woman who has my mom here to help me, my husband, I was stressed out. So I can only imagine what some of them were going through. Like, again, I can't even really imagine what they were going through. And, so I think it was a time where everybody should have just been a little bit more, and I'm not saying they weren't, but just understanding and considerate of, there's so many different situations that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
At this point, trying to really be a stickler for, oh, did you sign on? Oh, did you complete your assignment? I think that wouldn't have been the most helpful way to go.
Oh, and thank you for that breakdown and that insight, because as you said, there you had a little village, but again, it still was overwhelming. And so for the single parent out there who had to go physically to work,
right,
possibly, and then now decide, how am I going to do, what am I going to do with my child, homework? Because I know sometimes I've heard some broadcasts, and even now in the fall, teachers are upset. Oh, the kids are there in pajamas, or they're doing this and doing that, and being frustrating. And I understand their frustration, but this is a whole different scenario for so many. So it's not as cut and dry to say, oh, the kids are going to do X, Y, Z. I know I have a short attention span. Don't leave me at home. I have a hard time working from home and staying focused. I could imagine a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, 5th grader, 6th grader, and I'm supposed to stay in front of a computer and focus and pay attention. I usually have to fidget and play my Catan game or something when I'm sitting in church. No.
I was playing that before I got on the
show. So as a parent who may feel, as an educator, what words can you encourage a parent when they feel that, oh, their student may not be doing well now in the fall coming in and not doing that? I know what I think, but again, I don't have any children that age group right now, but because I more so think of the mental and emotional health just to get through the next year of what's happening versus the educational part, because I'm like, I can catch up with that. But again, I'm not an educator. How do you help a parent who is feeling as though, what do I do? What do I do? Have you found any online resources or any other things that could possibly help a parent out, or if they just need to chill out?
Yeah, my thing at one time online was good because we weren't already online, right? So the kids are already sitting in front for school, are already sitting in front of the computer all day. So I again back in before all COVID, people would find things like ABC Mouse or IXL, and those were different learning things that kids can do when they came home from school, right? But I just feel like at this point they're already sitting in front of a computer all day. I just really think that at a certain point, let them just be, right? I think that sometimes we overthink and underestimate kids in a
Mm-hmm.
way. We as adults are overthinking while we're underestimating them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're going to make it through. I think it's more so us as parents and educators that are going to be the ones stressing the most. I feel like they're going to make it. My basic thing I would tell parents is just make sure your kid is reading.
Okay.
If they don't do anything else, because not all school systems are in a position where they have Chromebooks and the kids are actually learning right now. You have
Mm-hmm.
school systems that don't have that option and their kids are basically just doing packets, right? So I would really just press that your child reads and
Okay.
sure you try to give them as little bit of social emotional skills as much as possible. But reading to me would be the number one thing. If they're reading, they can figure, if they know how to read and understand what they're reading, so have good reading comprehension, they'll be fine. They'll make it
Mm-hmm.
through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would really just focus on that, but I wouldn't try to get them more on a computer, more trying to drill in different things. I think they just, after a certain time, really need to get off of the screens,
Mm-hmm.
relax and chill and just be kids.
Okay, and I said and again, I like what I'm hearing. I like when you say that because if you've been in front of the computer all day or most of the morning, depending on how your particular school is set up, letting them just be. Now, I know for some parents, you may not have a park that you can take your kids to. You may not have a little back backyard, but I think we just have to be creative in letting them work off those get some physical activities in there. But I like when you just say the reading, as Sade says, reading is fundamental. So if your child is not, because I think they start learning in kindergarten, pre or first grade when they start
Uh,
learning to
I mean,
read.
now by kindergarten, they want them to be able to read.
Read. So moving them on the reading scale. So if they were reading at a first grade level, second grade, to get them a little bit more advanced book. And guys, I don't know, your libraries may or may not be open where you are, but we have virtual library apps that they can check out books. And whatever little book or magazine you have around. I know one of the fun things that I did for my granddaughter, I would actually have the subtitles on the TV.
Right.
She's watching her favorite shows. We're looking at words that way. So we can be creative in making sure they read or increase their reading capacity. Because if they can read, yes, you can learn your social science, your social studies, and your science later on because that's more memorization
Right.
and reading. Let them read you a bedtime story. Hey.
Yeah. I know library, I think the library, the most underrated resources that are available to free resources that are available. I know like you can go to the library, you can get, of course you get your books. They have book kits where even like books that are on tape or on CD, like you can get those and the kids can listen to that. And they usually have, sometimes they even have the copy of the book there too. So the kids
Mhm.
to flip through the book while they're listening to it so they can still see the words but they're able to hear it and sometimes they might want to listen to it instead of reading it. So those different options, and again, I don't know, I know with COVID things have changed, but the library usually has lots of different programs for kids to do there and to learn things, and also gives them hands-on experience. So I would definitely check out your local library to see what they have available during this time.
I know because again, libraries have always been my friend, and I think that during this time they may have found some creative ways to do things. So check out your local libraries. One of the things, some places may not have a very good library system because I know where you live, it's excellent. Well, in that state, because I'm it's just great. But wherever you are, look and see what they currently may have virtually. If they have certain times when you can go in and check out a book, they may even have extended the amount of time you can keep the book because of COVID, or we don't know. So definitely just try and see. But one of the other things I wanted to share with them, because I know as with Javern, back in the day, I used to do child development as well. And when I had my children, is to be creative at home with the learning. I know one of the things we used to do, we made Play-Doh. I know you've made slime and other things that you can find recipes on the internet to do so that you can still do activities with your children that could be fun. So, what are some of the? I think learning should be fun. I
Right.
think learning should be fun. So, for the parents who are maybe at home and feeling frustrated because they think learning is sitting down at a table, share with us different ways that you can learn without it looking as though you're learning, but you're
Right.
learning.
So Play-Doh is a good one, a good example to start, and especially for younger kids because, and I mean, as you get older, things change, but younger kids like to have something in their hand. So we call them manipulatives. So finding different type of manipulatives that kids can use while they're learning to read, or while they're learning sight words or spelling words or learning their new math, like just finding ways they can be hands-on. So, and I have some manipulatives here, but I don't have all of them. But like for Play-Doh is a good one because you can have them make letters with Play-Doh. So you say, hey, let's make an A. They can make an A. They could spell out their name with Play-Doh. They even have little stampers that you with letters and numbers on them. So I like to use them in my class sometimes where they're using it for their spelling words or their sight words. So you might have a list of sight words. Let's say the sight words the, and they can use the little Play-Doh stampers in the Play-Doh and spell the word the. And so they still get to play with Play-Doh and they still get to learn while they're doing that. You can use sand. A sand is another good one where they can use to trace letters or trace their spelling words. I mean, and you'll be surprised, even when you get to fifth and sixth grade, how really they still like those types of things.
Yes.
When I pulled certain things out, at first they will look at me like, "What, Miss Davis? We are too old for this." But if I started showing excitement, they started getting excited. I'm like, y'all know y'all like to play with slime and play, and just different ways to get them excited about learning. And of course, the first day you might just let them explore with it, and then the next day you say, okay, so now we're going to practice doing our sight words, or we're going to practice our letters. Just whatever works best for you and your child, but trying to find fun ways to get them to be interested. I know like this phone, like it's a phone, they use this to read. So the kids get to read into the phone so they can hear themselves reading. And again, it's just another something. Kids like to talk on the phone. So they're
Mm-hmm.
reading, or they can be saying words, saying their words, but it's a fun way for them to be doing it instead of just the boring way of just sitting there.
Oh.
Different ways, to help them out. And like if you go onto Amazon, there's another place called Lakeshore Learning Center. You can find different types of manipulatives. If you type in math manipulatives, a lot of things will come up. And you can make, some people even make these, go to Home Depot and get the pipes and they make them.
And do that. And I like it. Do it yourself or finding there. Because even when you're talking about the sand, if somebody doesn't have sand, you got flour, you got rice, you got beans at home. So it's just like, hey, pull out something that you do have and just have it in a container. And this is used for learning things. And I love that, because the other thing that I've seen you do, and I like it, was I saw you had these big old cups one time at your house that the kids were playing and stacking and doing all sorts of things. I'm like, oh, that just makes sense. These are plastic cups that can reuse again. just to play and explore, but I said, this is just so inexpensive, but something that they can do. So, what was that idea with?
I went to the dollar store. You just buy those red cups and they build with them. They build pyramids with them. Sometimes they build forts with it. Um, it, they do a lot of things with it. You can use it to a phone. They use it to turn a phone with the strings on each end. So just different ways where they can be creative. And sometimes it's not just about, sometimes I just get stuff and they figure it out. Sometimes we try to structure them and tell them. And I am very, sometimes can be very like, no, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I can be very structured sometimes with them. But sometimes just realizing, here goes the stuff. You decide how are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it? And I think that's another thing during this time where some people, you might have more time for that, letting them to just explore and imagine. I realize that a lot of kids lack imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gotten to a point where we tell them exactly how things are supposed to be done, or they feel like, okay, everybody's doing it this way, I have to do it this way. But it's like if you give them a question where, what do you think, or how would you do this? It's like they're just staring at you like, what should I do? So just giving them the opportunity just to mess up or figure out their way to do it, because sometimes we think they're messing up and they still figure it out on their own. And again, that goes back to my thing of, I really think that it's going to be okay in the long run. I know it's kind of scary and people aren't, and I have my moments where like, what is this next generation going to be? Who's going to be the ones left to take care of us? Because this is quite interesting situation we're in. But I really feel like they'll be able to push through, and they'll be able to make it.
I like how you say that because so often we want to have it particularly structured and letting them know. And Sade said, yes, oh, that's good. Give them the opportunity to mess up. It's okay because so often we want to tell someone what to do and we've lost that curiosity where it's just like, wait a minute, who said a cup is only for drinking? They now have used these cups to do so many different things creative. And when you talk about the next generation, I think we may have quite a bit of um, new scientists and thinkers and engineers and architects because of allowing them to have their imagination just work, just depending on the environment that we can create for them. Because talking about that, I knew you switched schools, so you're working in a different environment, and you shared with me some things that are different that made you pause and realize there's certain things that you're going to be applying because the way that they're structured or expectation, they allow for a little bit more creativity, and it was a little bit different for you with that adjustment. Share with me, please.
So yes, at my current job, it's a different background than what I've been used to. Um, and so as African American, as a Black person, I really think, and I was in a school for 4 years with Black kids. I really think that we are a lot harder on our kids than our counterparts or those others. So it has been quite an adjustment, and it's kind of like, it's like this toss in my mind, like, how is the best way to do this? And when I think about even raising my own kids or even teaching at my other school, how much harder we were on them. So that, and of course there's so many, there's so many different reasons why we do the things we do and why we might be harder on our kids. There's a plethora of reasons why.
Yeah.
And it's just as simple as just what our current situation socially is right now, and the things that are going on, why I feel like are a lot harder on our kids. But they are a lot less harder on them, and they're more freer than what I grew up in the situation I grew up in, or again in the classroom, or even how I teach my kids. So that was a major adjustment for me personally, being like, okay, take a step back. This, just trying to revamp and redo things. So I would again. So when my kids do come back, it's just like, okay, it's gonna be okay. And again, it's a mental thing as far as a parent, like everything's going to be fine. And I think sometimes my own personal anxiety, and I think this might be a factor for some kids and parents, is like the anxiety part of this whole situation as well. So just trying to, rethink that.
Zachary, I'm on my broadcast, okay? I kind of muted myself for a minute to just let my spouse know before he runs the blender and everything else for the next 30 minutes. So sorry, guys. But yes, I like that. And Jerome Hurst says, yeah, allowing to mess up works well for you, Miss Host. Thank you. That is true. Because as you say that, I remember years ago when my children were younger, I was sitting out at a pool, and I too had gone through child development and knew there were certain things I wanted to do different, but I just didn't know how because of my background. There were certain things that were taught, but I remember seeing a different ethnicity speaking to their children, and they weren't shouting or whatever and doing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to change how I talk and do with my children, even though it wasn't going to be the norm for my culture. But I was just like, this is what I want. This is how it is. So it's going to be different. I'm going to make mistakes because I don't normally know how to parent this way, or educate this way. But I am going to err on this way of speaking to my children and interacting and exposing them and educating them. So it was a learning curve. But as you said, one of the things that I remember recently in my own experience, I realized that um, a lot of your voice was stifled. My voice is stifled because you weren't allowed to ask questions. Children were seen and not heard in our culture. Whereas in others, because they're allowed to ask questions and to be curious and to say, oh, what makes this one? Why does this? Why is this like this? They're allowed to explore and to make mistakes. Whereas for us, sometimes as a culture with the social injustice is like, we're not allowed to make that mistake because if we make a mistake, it can be deadly.
Right.
So it is different. So talking about that a little bit, because I know you were working with African American children and with your own children and dealing with the different things that are happening. So in addition to the virtual learning, you've had to now be there for your students and your own children with the concerns that we have here. So how did you navigate that with your children? How did you navigate that with your students? And what can you share to other parents who are experiencing this? Because sometimes there's just no words sometimes.
Right. I know in my class, I was just a strong believer. Like I told them every day, like my kids, and I mean, I guess the first thing was letting them know that they're beautiful, how they are. So I'm one, like the girl came in with her hair not out natural and I'm like, your hair is cute, girl. So it's just different. Like these are my boys. They come in, they change their hair up. That's what we do. We like our hair might be one way the next day, change the next day. And just letting them, affirming them and, that their hair, because even the boys, their hairstyles will change because they might have braids one day and then they take the braids out. Some of them might be locking their hair and just letting them know first that, your hair is nice, your skin, some of them skin complexions, that's a big thing for, our kids and especially our girls, letting them know you're beautiful. So that's the first thing I would do. And I always encourage them to let them know that the history that we know that you're taught as you came here as slaves is so much more than that. Your history is Earth's history. So we're not just slaves. Like the reason this world is here is we came from people that look like you, right? So I always try to instill that into them because I really believe that if we really understood who we were and who we are, I think it would do us as a people, as a group, a lot better if we really truly understood that. So I just try to encourage them that way. As far as my kids, having those conversations with them happens a lot. I mean, I have a 5-year-old boy and then a 7 and 9-year-old girls. So especially for my son, just like letting him understand, like, mommy expects you to, this is why I have to be like, no, I need you to stop and listen right now. Because in certain situations, you don't have the luxury to start asking 101 questions. You just don't. And, I remember taking them some of the churches would do like silent protests, or they would have not a protest, but would just have outings where they would have like we went to the Tamir Rice
Mhm.
was shot. So the kids were able to see like he was at a park, and everybody can have whatever thoughts that they have. But just realizing like you just have to know that this is happening. This is the time that we're living in. And I just want you to be aware of that. And I want you to know that if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, don't feel like you can't come and talk to us about it. If something happens and you have questions about why is this happening, what's going on, it's okay. We can talk about it. And so they knew about all of like they knew about the shootings or the deaths and stuff. And I talked to them, we went through the pictures so that they could see like the people's faces, to let them know like this is real and this is really happening. And it's not something that is just made up, and, and
Mhm.
people that look like you. So mommy wants you to make sure that when a situation arises, just listen and just
Mhm.
stop. And, it sucks and it's sad that you don't have the same rights as someone else, but my goal is for you to make it home. I want
Right.
you to be able to get home. My kids, they don't play with toy guns.
Mhm.
They don't play with toy guns. It's just outside. Like that's not for me. I don't want you to ever really feel safe with a gun in your hand. I don't want you to even play with one because of what I know happens. So it's sad and it's a hard situation, but it's just something that this is something that they just have to live with and just learn how to
Mhm.
make it through this type of um, environment, society that we live in.
And I like when you say that. And so my suggestion too to other parents out there is allow them to see your emotions as well too. I remember just this weekend, with the things with the verdict with Brianna, I went riding on my bike, but I was crying as I'm riding on my bike because I feel that. I feel the helplessness that happens. And so often sometimes you may need to give your children the space to cry, the space to be there. I know one thing, I remember talking to a friend who's a therapist. And so she had a client there and they said, oh, I don't want to cry. And they said, well, if you can't cry with your therapist, who can you cry with? And I said, as children, if you can't cry with your parent, who else can you cry with? And so, I don't have any children around, but I was just feeling my overwhelming with my own emotions and just knew I needed on my bike ride as I released my anxiety and my emotions. And so as an educator and as a mom going through those things for your children, or your students, when you have that, give them the space to cry, give them the space to be angry in a safe space, because it can be angry and you can't tell them, oh, don't be angry. That's a normal emotion. And for you to tell them to bottle it up, it's not realistic. Let them have a safe place to be angry. If you need to get a little punching bags or something for them to work out that frustration, because it is frustrating for young children to see that or hear that or however they're going to process it, but ask them the questions. And I want to say I'm a big proponent for therapy. So if your children during this time, it doesn't mean that you're not doing something well as a parent or an educator. Let them have some mental health. It's virtual now. So please, parents, you're going through your own thing. Imagine what your children are going through. So be willing to do that so they can have someone to talk to. So I'm just throwing that in there because we all need some help.
I agree, totally agree. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I feel like will probably be needed moving forward. I hope people really take that on, because the whole idea, the social emotional part of this situation, it could be really tough on everybody. We have the COVID. You've had people have had relatives dying during this time because of COVID, and the racism and and social justice that's going on. It's just a lot. So I really second what you said, Tia, about if you need to talk to somebody, please, and your kids. I definitely agree.
Yeah, I said I like that. So again, we're going to have a little segue because one of the things that I've enjoyed experimenting on with my family, I've done the Maxwell method, and one of the things is my family has taken it, and there's even a Maxwell disc methods for students. So I asked Javerne to take it and to actually give it to her oldest daughter because you have to be at least 8 years old. And there were so many things that you learned for yourself, but I'm going to specifically talk about the one for the student because it gave them tools that you could possibly use an insight to her own personality, even though you kind of knew how your child is. But there were some insights that you got. And I think that your oldest daughter had some insights as well to how she can now navigate and continue to use her voice in a positive way without getting in trouble. Because sometimes, our personality types can cause us to get in trouble, but teaching you how to phrase something in such a way so that you don't get in trouble. So give me a little insight on what you thought was your takeaway when you took it for yourself and for your student, for your oldest child.
So, for me, like again, things about yourself, and sometimes you try to like, no, that's not me. No, I'm not that way, and you have an idea, but then you see it in black and white, like, no, this is definitely you, right? So that's what it was for me. I don't remember exactly what I was, but I know for me personally, based off of what I remember, it was basically saying that I was a perfectionist, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because of me being a perfectionist, nothing ever happens because I get into my own head and I'm like, well, if it's not done this way, then I'm not doing it. And I end up not doing anything. And so that was an eye opener for me. So it's still something that, I'm like, okay, I need to put an extra step in to actually start moving and completing something and understanding. Again, goes back to what I try to teach my kids now, because I know how I am. It's okay to mess up. It's okay if things aren't 100% when you first start. It's not. It's okay. And I think that was something that wasn't really taught to me. I felt like things had to be done this way, and I needed to make sure it was done right. I felt like I didn't really have room for mistakes in how I
Mm-hmm.
grew up. I didn't feel like I had those spaces for that. So,
Mm-hmm.
just being able to navigate doing that now. And so as for my daughter, I've been in a room where my mother was my teacher. So that's a thing. And then I've also taught my daughter. So we've been, in a situation where we've all had that experience as mother and daughter experiences. And I can say it's quite interesting, right? So even like for my daughter, she is based a lot like her mother, right? So just her idea of, okay, I need to make sure things are done right. She has a lot more, I think, determination than I do. Like she's going to keep pushing. So
Mm-hmm.
she'll keep going, but she still is in her own form a perfectionist. And she has a heavy like thing if things don't go right. And so again, as a parent, it's like, okay, I brought on things that I took as a child, right? And things that were put on me. And now I've put that on her in some form, right? So so this allows me to say, okay, I just really need to revamp my way, because I don't want her to be at a certain age and it's like, overload, or her anxiety heightens, right? Because she just feels like things have to be done a certain way. So it was very insightful for that, and it allows you to know if um, you're a certain personality, how to interact with other people who might be different personalities with you, which is helpful when you're working, helpful with relationships with parents, siblings, children, spouses, right? How can we, being that we are different, how can we use our
Yeah.
differences and come together and, try to have a healthy relationship? So I
Because
thought very helpful.
because I like that because as I told you guys, I let my family members take it. And so we found out that there were three people in our family members who are the precisionist. That's the type Javern is. And even leading to this conversation with Carla, she was like, "Oh, can you send me some questions what we're going to be asking?" And lo and behold, the other siblings, the other people who are that personality, they did the same thing. They were like, what are you going to ask me? The others is like, oh, well, Floyd. But the precisionist, because they need detail, they need time to prepare. So yes, once you understand them, you don't get frustrated because I knew even when I was asking Javerne to do this, I gave her time. I had to plant the seed and say, hey, I'm going to be asking you because I know that. Whereas someone with my personality, my type, right, we could do things on the fly. And so being respectful of knowing that, and even for the student one, so those of you who are interested in the Maxwell method of DISC, you can definitely message me. But on my website, and I'm going to put it up here, www relationship when you can't spell doula.net. If you go to my assessments section, you can take the Maxwell. You can pay for that. I think it's just $49 if you just want to do that method of DISC. But if you want to do the student one, you'll have to email me because that's a different code that I would have to get to you to do. But it's the same $49. If you want to do the debriefing with me, it's that information is on the website as well too. But I liked when we did the one for her daughter now to be equipped to how to handle that. And they shared, and she knew when her mom said, yeah, this is me, or this is like your tia, your auntie, and understand that these are these things. And so it's just insightful and it helps you to grow a little bit more because sometimes if you don't have the tool, if you have to hammer something in, you may have a shoe to hammer a nail in and it's going to take you longer. But if you had a hammer, it will be more effective and take a short amount of time. So learning how somebody is gives you that tool as a parent, as a teacher, so that you understand this is them. I don't have to go crazy over them because they may like to daydream. How do I deal with a child who just likes to daydream? How can I be interactive with them? So thank you for sharing those particular insights with me for when you and your daughter did the method of this, because we're learning so much more about each other because we now have these tools ourselves as a family. Because so for any other family out there, you can take it because it's proactive. You are definitely learning things about yourself because each one of them told you what areas you may need to grow in. So I like that. So we're going to be wrapping up. We have, oh, time has gone by so quickly. And I know you were a little bit nervous, but thank you again, my dear Javerne, for coming along with me in this journey because we need to just let other parents out there know it's going to be okay.
Right.
It's going to be okay. No one ever died because they had to repeat a grade, did they?
They have. They have it.
so so Sade was like, Javerne, how did the disc help you with communicating with your sister?
When I was taking the test and they gave me the list of things, um, I said, "Has my sister taken this test already?" And she said, "I don't. I think Tia. I think you said she has, but I haven't given her the scores." And I
Mhm.
knew exactly which one my sister was. Right. So we've been on a journey together, working together, and sometimes I just have to tell her like, I know you're 101 different places, but I need you to, just focus. So just getting an understanding of each other. And, we've had to have some conversations where we're going back and forth at each other, but just realizing like, again, I need details. I need you, this is what you told me to do, or, and just being able to work around that and grow better. And
Because yes,
there is one she has 101 ideas, and she'll take on any task that comes her way without even thinking of all of the possibilities, right? So it's an interesting dynamic because I'm thinking of all of the different possibilities and saying this isn't going to work, and she's like, no, we can do this, we can do this. So it's quite interesting. So it's we help to balance each other all.
and see, that's the beautiful thing too, when and I want you guys to hear me as parents, as educators. You're in your family, you're going to be different, and it's okay. It's learning then now how to make those different things a cohesive machine or cohesive tool so that each person can be themselves. But like you said, sometimes you may need to rein someone in who's just all over the place, and they may have to just loosen it up a little bit for you
Right.
because you may be a little bit too straight laced or going. Because I think for one of the things for yours is like ready, 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 but you never ready, aim, and fire. So sometimes they have to make you just fire. Okay, you may miss the mark, but that's okay. You did it. So I like that because as Chardae's oh, even Rebecca says, yes, it's definitely helped me know how to communicate with my mom. And audience, that's my daughter. So we're on a journey of learning how to communicate
Right.
even now. So there's possibility to do that. So
That like just learning like your different student kids. And I know, like, I mean, there's parents in there who are at home with their kids and have more than one kid. And you have to realize that what works for one kid might not work for your other kid. So one kid might like sitting at their desk and doing their work at their desk. And another kid might say, I need to go lay on the floor, or I need to go sit in a corner by myself, or I was a student, I couldn't sit. When I was doing homework, I had to have noise in the background. Like to just sit there with no noise or anything was like tough for me. So people would come into my area and be like, how are you studying? Like I would have the radio on or I'll have the TV on. And I was like, what's going on? I'm like, I need the noise. I need those. You just have to, I think, and again, this is a tough situation we're in, but I think again, it allows parents to know more about their kids and more about how they learn best, more about what their thought patterns are or process. Because a lot of times I think parents don't really understand that because that's not something that you deal with on a regular basis. They go and they figure that out, right? And so I think this is another way for people to be able to bond with each other. And it came about a crazy way, but I think it's a good time for parents to have that opportunity to get to know their kids in a different way than just on that driving at home trying to teach them this type of stuff, but more so educational to see how their brain really really works and help with their learning styles. And I know like
I love
at those different tests, they have different learning styles tests that they can take. Like, are they audible learners? Are they learners that learn when visually? Do they need to be kinetic learners? Different things like that. And it's best to try to find out what best works for your child. And again, that could be different. If you have more than one,
right,
3 kids, it could be 3 totally different things. And that's okay. You just figure out what works best for them. And, if your kid needs more breaks, I know a lot of times, again, they're sitting at the computer. If your kid's been on the computer and they're like, I'm tired of this, I think it's okay. I would say, let them get up because it's tough. Especially the younger they are, I can only imagine. I have 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And at the time we were on there for 30 minutes. I, as a teacher, was ready to get off after 20 minutes. So I know they were done at 10 minutes, right? So just being open, it's like this is a new normal, just a new way. And again, just being able to say, I need to do what best works for me.
and I like what you said, and I wanted to comment on that when you said just like for you learning, you needed that noise, and some people need quiet. I remember years ago when a good friend of mine said they were giving her son, saying, oh, he has behavioral issues and all this kind of thing. He may have to go on medication. But she found a school where they had a bathtub in the corner where he could just sit down there and read a book, and he was fine. Because as you say that, some children may need noise, some people may need quietness. They may need to sit on the floor, and you may think, oh, I need you to sit up in a chair. I know even now for me, I like sitting on the floor. Yeah, it takes me harder to get up, but that's a different story. So some people can focus on a table and desk. Some people can the kids may be lounging on the floor. Finding what that is for your child, because it's going to look different for each one. But if they're able to do it, and I liked how you said if they're audible, if they're tactile, if they're visual, getting to know what senses your child needs. And if you have more than one, you're going to have 3 different ways that you're going to have to navigate this so that each one of them can succeed, and not just one way. And that's the beautiful thing with this happening, because most of us, when the traditional classroom, it was just one way and only one kind of learning style was really there. So now parents have a way to, you can Google and figure it out. It's trial and error, but to me, there's always growth. You can do that for your children as you get to learn for them some more. And I won't read Mr. Robert Patterson's comment there. But thank you, Sade. This is great information. Thank you, Ms. Davis and Carla. So we're going to be wrapping up. We've talked about different resources, but is there a way for them to contact you? If they, as a virtual learning coach, I know you do some coaching virtually for educators and for parents who may need that. Is there some way they can contact you if they're interested?
Yes, you can contact me at my email. It's Hurst, Hurst, Davis, Davis @gmail.com.
Okay, so if you have that, Louis Lindita says, are there support groups for teachers that you recommend for teachers? Are you familiar with any kind of support group?
I don't know any like right off the back, but like Facebook, of course, you could go to Facebook, Instagram, you could find a whole bunch of different groups or things to find for teachers there that are very supportive, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have a few friends that I like text for like different ideas, or we'll send different things. But Pinterest for parents is another good thing to look at. Like if you don't know, you're trying to teach your kids something, let's say nouns. If you go to Pinterest and put in nouns, you'll see different types of activities, games that they can do. There's a thing called Teachers Pay Teachers that's available for resources again, it's for teachers, but right now you're kind of the teacher. You might be able to look onto those things to help you, that might help with the learning. Again, if you manipulatives, I feel probably very good things to do that will help the kids. With math, if they can have counters in their hand, if they have marbles, teddy bears, something that they can use while they're doing their maths, find things that work best for them. And the other thing I would say is just be forgiving of yourself, because this is a learning process for everybody. None of us have been in this situation. No teacher, no administration, no parent, no kid. We're all learning. We're all on the learning curve, and everyone's going to make mistakes. And the thing about this, there's no one right way to do it.
Yeah.
So if your kid is going to school, more power to you. If you're at home by yourself, more power to you. If they're doing a mixture of virtual and school, more power to you. At this point, everybody needs to do what's best for them. And I encourage you all, everybody's doing what they need to do. And I just want to applaud all parents. I want to applaud all educators for, just doing this during this crazy time we're living in. Still out there doing what you need to do. There is no right way to do it. And you have to do what works best for you.
I like that, because I want to repeat that again for others who may have to hear it 2-3 times. There is no right way to do this. There is no right way to do this. All of us are learning a learning curve. And so please be encouraged. Please be compassionate with yourself. I'm putting up her email again there for other parents who just need an idea or someone to say, hey, to contact Javerne as a virtual learning coach. So we're wrapping up. So I want to thank you again, Javerne, for being comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have many conversations in our family because some of us are very introvert. You wouldn't know that, but we really are. But we are going on this journey of saying we're going to share our voice with others and get ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So thank you guys for tuning in for us. My name is Carla. If you want to get more information on the Maxwell method of DISC and do an assessment for yourself or do one for your student, please feel free to check out my website, and you can communicate with me that way or follow me on social media at Coach Carla Henry Lewis. I'm also on Instagram at Coach Carla Henry Lewis, because the gift that I like to give or think we all can do with the DISC is giving someone the ability to communicate in the method or in the language that they understand. And so often than not, we don't know how to do that. And if we can, I think there's so many misunderstandings that could be avoided. But my name is Carla. I'm your relationship doula, helping men and women bravely birth peace in the pieces of their lives. You guys have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.